Oh, what a wonderful day to go flying, everyone. I don't know about that. It's been quite dark at the moment, but this should be pretty fun. We're going to see how this goes. Um, all right. It's looking pretty dark, which means it should be pretty nice. We should see some beautiful sights in this lovely night flight here. All right, so day two of our stream. In case you missed it and you're curious, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Does this make any sense? We are going to be flying from no, not California. We're flying from Arizona all the way back to New York in our farewell Flight Simulator 2020 stream. We're using real-time weather as well as real time. So we're taking off right outside of northern Arizona here. So at this time, it's what? It's 5:30 here. So it's 5:30. It's gonna be a wee bit dark. This is gonna be fun. Supposedly we're gonna see some very beautiful sights as we take our trip. And I'm thinking we're only gonna make it possibly to Albuquerque today, from where we are. So as you can see here, we're at Winslow Lindbergh Regional Airport. And just so you have a nice frame of reference here, let's make this bigger so we can all see what I can see here. This is where we are. I'm going to remove some of these VORs, NDBs. I don't think any of you really care about any of that. Cool. And let's just take a look at the map. So we're going to be taking off from right here. Winslow, North Carolina. Where did I get that from? So we're taking off east of Flagstaff, Arizona, and we're going to try to make it here. Maybe not all the way to Albuquerque. We're not going to be able to. I don't think we can make it. Well, actually, we can make it to Albuquerque because I did fill up the plane in our last stream. So in case you missed it, our last stream we had a bit of a fuel emergency, and I needed to divert to another airport. And then after diverting to another airport, I decided, you know what? I think this is a good place for us to end, and let's get some lunch. So for today, we're going to set up our flight plan. I'm going to get rid of all of what was here yesterday. And let's add this waypoint here to KEEG. Double Eagle 2 Airport. Now that's a sick name. Double Eagle Airport. So let's add that to where we're going to fly to. Let's see if that shows up in our flight plan yet. Add waypoint. Please. Okay, there we go. So we've added that waypoint and we're going to inject that into Flight Sim. So for this flight, we're going to have to be doing some instrument flight rules. So we are going to shoot an approach. I have a feeling it's going to, by the time we get to Albuquerque, it's going to be rather dark. So I may need to do a instrument approach, which is not a problem. I'm not an instrument rated pilot at all. To be quite honest, instrument flight does freak me out a bit. But seeing as it's a nice clear sky, we're not going to run into any weather, I don't think. We should have a grand old time on this flight and we should be okay. All right, so let's get started with our startup procedure here. Jackson, I know, mate, long time, man. Well, I live in Arizona now, so you're gonna have to come visit me. All right, so we're gonna get started with our takeoff checklist. No, not our takeoff checklist. We're gonna have to do our startup checklist. Luckily, this is a sim, so I don't have to break out the checklist. But if this were real life, you're supposed to look at your checklists. All right. No one is too cool for checklists. All right. So enough faffing about, enough stupid chinwag. Let's get the show on the road. First things first. Besides me being the realist, we need to turn the battery on. There we go. Batteries on. We have these lovely, lovely floodlights right above our heads here. Let's turn them down because I don't want all of China to know I'm here. Um, yeah, I don't want these floodlights up here. Just give me my instrument lights. Okay. So first step, battery on. Batteries on, fuel pump on. This fuel pump we're going to turn off once we get it started. You're not supposed to start the engine without your lights on, so I'm going to turn on beacon lights first. Taxi lights, landing lights on. Nav lights on. Strobe stays off. Pitot heat off. Avionics master, we're going to switch those on once we get our engine started. Once we get the engine started, then we're going to whack on our alternator. The alternator is going to give us some electric power back to the battery that we are slowly draining. Let's take a look at our mixture. Mixture's cut. Let's put that to 100% mixture. Down here we have our fuel shutoff valve. We're going to set the fuel shutoff valve to on. So fuel shutoff valve is set to on. You can already hear it starting to hum. Gorgeous. Now we're going to give our engines a start, and everyone knows before you start your engines, you're supposed to yell loudly, clear prop, so everyone knows get the hell out of the way. So we're going to do exactly that. Even though it's a sim, I just like yelling it anyway. So here we go. Oi, everyone, out of the way of my propeller. Please stay away from my propeller.
Clear prop.
I can't believe I've done that. All right.
Hello, Captain.
Got a good
Nice to
start
see you
here.
again.
Alright, good start. Fuel flow is good.
You are clear to start your engine.
Fuel flow looks good. Vacuum pressure right now is a little bit
You're
low.
good to go. Contact the tower for clearance.
But that's okay. Vacuum pressure is looking low as we start to gain some throttle here. That should kick up my vacuum pressure here. Nice. Okay, cool. Vacuum pressure is up. I just realized. Seeing as you guys have the vertical format, I need to zoom into it. But anyway, I'm looking at my vacuum pressure here, making sure that's in the green. Vacuum is very important. Without vacuum pressure, a lot of my vital gauges won't run. Alright, so we can turn off the fuel pump now that we've got fuel going. Let's turn on the strobe. Put on the pitot heat, and let's turn on our avionics. So avionics going on. Wow, it's already gotten exponentially darker since we've even started. Don't like that sound. Okay, cool. Alright, land and terrain databases are loading. Cool, let's turn on our transponder. All map and terrain data is just supposed to be for general use. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. Self-panel test. Nice. So our panels are now self-testing. They're aligning our GPSs. And we're going to be able to get up in the sky soon. These annunciator lights, let's test them. I just want to make sure that they work. Okay, cool. Annunciator lights work. Annunciator lights work. ELT is armed. Okay, cool. So what does your ELT do? If I remember correctly, I think that's your emergency location transmitter. So basically, if you were to make a major fucky wucky in the sky, you made a boo-boo, well, if you have this armed, it can detect that you were in a crash, and then it will let the powers that be know where to find you. I don't know who the powers that be that will come find you. I don't think anyone necessarily wants to find out, so let's not. This glare shield brightness, I want to lower that a bit. Just because I don't like how bright it is. I tend to prefer having my panels illuminate and not so much my glare. Yeah, there we go. That's more conducive for flight. Alright. Cool. I think we're about ready to get out of here. Everything looks clear, free, set. All right, before we fly, you always want to have a plan about where the hell you're flying to. So our active flight plan is taking us to KAEG. This is going to be a 200 nautical mile flight all the way to New Mexico. All right, everyone, so strap in. We're going to be here for a bloody long time. But what's really cool about flying small planes, you really don't have much of a chance to get bored. You can't get bored. You will never get bored flying a small airplane just because there's so much for you to pay attention to that you just won't have the time to get bored, not even as a treat. All right, so these GPSs are set. I kind of want to have, just in case, whenever I fly, I generally like to have especially, well, now that we're flying at night, let's load up our full procedures for our approach here. So for this approach, I want to shoot the localizer. What was that? That was a sound. I don't know what that was, but okay. I'm gonna do localizers. We're gonna transition from ABQ or from vectors. Let's see. Let's do vectors, and we're gonna load this. So GPS guidance is for monitoring only. So essentially what that means is they don't want us to take the GPS course all the way down to the ground. The reason why is because when you go low to the ground, the GPS can actually fool you. You get what's called GPS spoofing from what I've read. So they're just saying, hey, if you're gonna shoot this with GPS, just know that it's for monitoring only. You want to actually become established on the localizer, and that is what is that actually? That would be radio, right? So that's radio. Thank you for the follow. How do I read that? Kamla Jean. Kamla Jean, I'm trying. I don't know. It's close. I probably absolutely butchered that pronunciation, but thank you for the follow. All right, everyone. So I think it's about time we go airborne. I'm just trying to see here. Where are my other bits and bobs that I'm looking for here before we go airborne? There's one more thing that I do need to handle, and I can't remember what it is at the moment. Oh well, I guess we'll find out what that thing is once we're in the sky. That is one of the last things you ever want to hear your pilot ever say. We'll figure it out when we start flying. All right. So we're gonna get started here. We're gonna put in our engine power. Oh boy. I think I may need a pushback here. Yeah, let's get a pushback. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to get a pushback. We can't just run out like that. All right. We're getting this old bird pushed back. All right. This pushed back, and once we get a pushback, then we can take the sky. Oh my god, the wheel.
Help me tip $2. Hey Wendy, it's just us again.
I can't explain. All right. So let's see. We're just gonna let this figure its life out. I don't know if he's actually gonna push me back or if he's just looking at me. Like, what do you think, I'm cute or something, bro? Like, can you push me back? Oh, I think they're doing it. I think they're gonna push me back. Is he? Come on, back it up, back it up, back it up. You're good. You're good. You're good. You're good. Come on. Come on. I'm about to perform a questionable flight at a questionable time of the day, and I just want to get up there quickly so I can get this over with. So please, push me back, bro. Alright, I guess not. Alright. It's okay. We don't need to push back. We don't need to push back. Alright, so I'm going to put full right toe brake in. Full rudder. Okay. And you know what? Yeah, we're just going to off-road it. We're off-roading this, alright? And I'm pretty sure this is an uncontrolled airport, if I remember correctly also. Yeah, this is the uncontrolled airport, so... Alright. I'm actually really looking forward to this flight. I don't really fly in this sim at night that often. And it's crazy, like, this sim literally looks like how it looks outside my window right now here in Arizona. Beautiful. Or at least that's what you would pay for, right? When you pay for a flight sim, you expect it to kind of look like what it looks like outside. Alright, so we're getting our taxi here. We're just gonna engage in the most exciting part of every flight, and that's taxiing. Everyone knows that's the most exciting part of your flight, right? Don't we just love taxiing? Where they go and make the car drive. I mean, they make the plane drive like a car. Isn't that like what everyone loves? Alright. I'm taxiing pretty slow here. They're cruising like we don't have anywhere to be. So yeah, those little balls on the taxiway guide me to where I'm supposed to go, because I'm a noob and I don't have the airport charts in front of me, so I don't know what taxiway is what. Outside air temperature 71 degrees. Something is off with my plane right now, actually, now that I think about it. Oh, did not mean to start that again. Probably just burnt out the starter. Yeah, she's feeling just a little bit sluggish on the ground, but... Oh, that's right, because when we had landed last time, we filled up this plane with so much fuel when we landed yesterday. Alright. $71 degrees. I think because it's 71 degrees, let's take off with flaps today. Yesterday we did a few no flap takeoffs. We were just riding in ground effect last time. So this time we're going to take off with 10 degrees of flaps set. Looking at the windsock over here, we can see what, it's probably about 5 knots. 5 knots of wind here, or is that 3? Yeah, it seems very, very calm, this wind. And based on where we're going to take off, this could be a headwind. And if it is a headwind, we're in luck. We always love taking off into the wind. And also, just in case we don't find an airport, like in case we don't make it all the way there, I'm gonna pull up our nearest airports, so then we have that as an option as well. Oh, that's where my terrain map was. Remember yesterday's stream? I'm like, oh, I wish I could see relative terrain. Turns out you can. That's what this big red area is in my avionics on this side. Alright, so it's good to know that we have that. Cool. So we're almost at the hold short line, and then we're gonna go get involved with some pilot shit. I'm gonna already set my flaps to 10 degrees, and just before I hit the hold short line, we should do a run up of our engine. In case you missed the stream yesterday and you don't know what a run up is when we max out the engine to 100% before takeoff. And the idea of that is, if the engine were to fail, the engine is going to be more likely to fail on the ground versus during a critical phase of flight, which is takeoff. So, got 100% maxed in. I'm not getting full RPM here. There is something wrong with this plane, and I don't know what it is. I'm not getting full RPMs. And I think I know why. We're taking off from 4,900 feet. So because we're taking off at 4,900 feet, the result of that is, well, the air is thinner. So our aircraft is going to be performing at a lot less than it would had we were taking off back in Mesa. So when we took off from Mesa, the runway was at 1,500 feet elevation. Now we're at approximately 5,000 feet elevation. So I'm not going to be getting 100% RPM. And that would explain why the aircraft, she's being a little sluggish right now, but that's okay. So the run-up is complete. Everything looks good. Everything was in the green. My fuel flow was consistent. Exhaust gas temperature did not raise beyond a reasonable level. And wow, we are flying into a beautiful full moon, everyone. Wow, yeah, we're going right into a full moon. So this might not be a totally pitch black flight after all. All
Kilo
right.
India November Whiskey traffic, Cessna November 7769er X-ray, taking off runway 4 straight out departure.
So now all of China knows what I'm doing. They know that I'm here, and they know what I'm capable of. So we're going to switch our pages over to nearest, just so I can see what are the nearest airports along our track towards Albuquerque, all right? And the reason why I'm doing that is just because we're flying. Let's say we get a little fatigued. Let's say, you know, you're hungry, you want to land. At least we'll have our nearest airports down here, so we can refer to them. All right, everyone, hold on to your butts. It's time to bloody take off. Right then, make sure all tray tables are stowed and in the upright position. Please keep your seatbelt on until I tell you when you can take it off. And keep your mouths shut until I say it's okay to fly. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, sterile cockpit until we are at cruising altitude. All right. Beginning our takeoff run here. Everything is in the green. All is in the green. Fuel flow looks good. Oil pressure looks good. Oil temperature in the green. Airspeed is alive. Airspeed's alive. We're now crossing 50. We're crossing 50 knots. At 60 knots, we're going to induce. We're going to induce. All right, positive rate. We've got positive rate. We're off the ground here.
Have a nice flight. Just to remind you, we're not paying you for this one.
Gee, thanks. I know you're not paying me for this one. All right. gaining altitude here, looking good. Altitude gain is consistent. You can take a look at RPMs. RPMs are still sitting high. We're not totally at the red. That's just due to the air being thinner at this altitude. We're still going to maintain our climb, and let's lift up some flaps. So we're going to take out a stage of flaps here. Wow, okay. Alright, we're going to set our trim. So we're going to do just a bit of some more pitch trim here. Kind of want the bird to just pitch up a bit, and she will fly on her own. We're going to monitor our airspeed. You see our airspeed is falling here. You have to be very, very mindful of our airspeed in this high altitude environment, because the air pressure is lower, therefore our engine is not going to be performing at its normal level. So we just need to be very mindful that we're not losing airspeed, because if you lose airspeed, well, you lose altitude. If you lose altitude, you die. So we're going to try to avoid that, everyone. Right.
Cessna 69er X-ray radar contact 2 miles northeast of
Okay.
Kilo India November Whiskey.
I think we're about 1,500 above ground level so far. Take a look out that window there.
Roger, Cessna
That's
69er
looking
X-ray.
good. And as you can see here, all of this yellow starts clearing away. So what that yellow is this is telling me what the relative terrain height is to my current altitude. So as you can see, when it's yellow, yellow means, hey, be careful, buddy, you might crash into terrain. When it turns red, it's like, oi, you better do something or else you're gonna Kobe Bryant yourself. That was a little too soon, that was a little insensitive, but you get my drift. So that's what's really cool about having your relative terrain altitude, because it lets you know from a distance what to expect. So as I zoom out, you can see we have a lot of red, and it's becoming smaller and smaller. And the reason why the red is becoming smaller and so is the yellow is because we're gaining altitude. All right. Now that I look at it, that's not a full moon. This is a waning gibbous moon. But still, she's up in the sky like a big pizza pie that I took a slight little bite out of, and that's still amore. Alright, so I'm gonna take my hands off the stick here. We're gonna trim the bird out. I'm gonna trim her to climb, let's do about 50 feet per minute. Or is that by 100 feet per minute? Yeah, it's by 100. So yeah, we're gonna go 500 feet per minute here. And we're gonna maintain 75 knots in this climb. Wow, the desert is... Oh, look at that reflection from the moon on top of the wing here. Gorgeous. So we are maintaining our course here. I am not using autopilot. I tend to... I don't like to use autopilot until I know what altitude I want to sit at, and then I'll activate autopilot. I like to hand fly the aircraft all the way up until cruising altitude. And then once we're at cruising altitude, then I'll autopilot. I try to avoid using the autopilot if I don't need it. However, autopilot is useful in regards to keeping you from becoming task saturated in the cockpit. Task saturated basically means you have to do one thing, then you also have to do another thing, then you have to do like 3 things. And if you have 5 Alright, let's see. Okay, now we're back. Thank you so much for noticing that. Thanks, babe. You're the best, Belgene. I was muted, and I didn't realize it. Alright. Now we're back. So, what was I even saying before? Oh, right. I was saying that you can use interstates as navigation at night. Also, runway lights are far brighter than civil aviation lights. No, I got it all mixed up. Oh my god. Runway lights are brighter than civil lights, such as road lights, street lights, building lights, all of that. Runway lights and airport lights are far brighter, so you can always see them. And that's what's cool about flying at night, I find. And also, flying at night in the sim, for me, has always felt very peaceful, very cathartic. Alright. So yeah, I've confirmed we are flying along the I-40. According to this map here. So yeah, we are flying along the I-40. So technically we can fly along the I-40 all the way into Albuquerque, which during my road trip we did take the I-40 for the majority of the trip, and we did take it to Albuquerque. So kind of cool. All right. Mm. Alright. Let's whack it into autopilot now. And autopilot right now is just keeping us level. That's all it's doing. It's just keeping us level. And what I'm going to do here is then we're going to put it into nav mode. So when I click nav mode down here, it will immediately start to turn the aircraft towards this purple line. We're going to activate that. Hit nav. And she should stop. Make her turn here. Let's see. Nav, GPS. Alright, if I switch her to GPS, and then I go back to Direct 2, hit activate, nav mode is still on, heading select on, approach mode on, vertical speed on. Okay. Oh, thank you all for putting up with our in-flight difficulties. As you can see, we are committed to both your safety and your comfort on this flight. So yeah, it's probably good that you couldn't hear me and you were just enjoying the flight all along, so that's good. So let's have a look at our map here. 5 nautical miles, 20 nautical miles out. Still looking good. And our ground speed is 98 knots. So our ground speed says 98 knots, but if you look at our altimeter here, that's weird. It says 80 knots. Why is that? And want to take a guess? Well, sorry, I'm going to ruin it for you. Our ground speed is higher than this airspeed here is our indicated airspeed. This is just what it's indicating us as right now, alright? That doesn't necessarily mean that is our true airspeed. Your true airspeed is a combination of how fast you're going with ground speed, but then also how the winds are affecting your airspeed. So, if you have if you're flying 100 knots and then you have a 90 knot headwind, you're flying into a 90 knot headwind, your indicated airspeed is going to be completely different from what your true airspeed is and what your ground speed is. So if your headwind matches what you're flying into, your ground speed will almost be 0. If someone is on the ground looking at you, you will just be floating in the sky. So the higher up you go, generally, the faster your ground speed becomes because the air is thinner. So yes, this is a hostage situation now. You're all on board. Welcome. Look at all of this back seat space I've got. I've got so much room for hostages and activities. Alright. Actually, I don't have that much space for activities because this plane is about the size of a Toyota Camry in the sky. But yeah, seeing as we're flying with such a bright moon, it's almost like it isn't fully nighttime. It's gorgeous.
Cessna 69er X-ray contact Albuquerque Center on 124.5. Good day.
69 X-ray Albuquerque.
124.5 Cessna 69er X-ray. Goodbye. Albuquerque Center, Cessna.
I like
November
the
77
automated
69er X-ray 9,000 feet.
voice for your pilot. She's just like,
Cessna November 77
goodbye.
69er
No,
X-ray
it's supposed to be,
Albuquerque
alright, go
Center
to that
on
frequency,
129
good night. You're supposed to say good night.
Contact continue.
She's just like, bye. Alright. So we're starting to reach the altitude in which we're going to need supplemental oxygen. That begins at 10,000 feet. So we are flying to the north, I believe. No, we're flying east. So if we're flying east to south, I'm supposed to fly on an even number for my altitude. So let's altitude hold. You're gonna notice our altimeter has now stopped perfectly on the ball, 9,200 feet. So we are below the altitude in which we would need to wear oxygen. That starts at 10,000 feet. So at 10,000 feet, that's when you want to wear oxygen. But then also, fun fact, did you know that at night, you have more of a chance of becoming hypoxic because your eyes, at night, you start to lose the ability to perceive color because your eyes have to work harder. So, they say, I think for night flight, I think it's 6,500 feet or something before you're supposed to use oxygen. But either way, it's a sim. We run on violence here, not on oxygen. Alright. I almost kind of want my relative terrain back. I don't feel good here. I need to see my relative terrain. Okay, my relative terrain says I'm okay. Adding 300. Why do I feel like I'm low? I feel like I'm way lower than I anticipated. But also, I'm flying with this landing light on. Big no-no. So let's turn that off. And let's turn off that taxi light. There we go. It's like I'm flying with my high beams on, but like, why? You're gonna blind everyone around you. Oh. So here we can see we have a little area on our terrain map that is red and yellow. What does that mean? Do you remember, everyone? It's where we are in relation to terrain around us. Red means you're gonna crash into it. Yellow means you're cutting it close, bro. So now let's look to our northeast, and what do we see? We see this massive mountain peak over here. So that's what my terrain radar is picking up. It's letting me know, hey, at this altitude, if you were to fly over there, you're not gonna be able to crest that peak. You're gonna crash into it. So it's very, very nice that it's letting me know this, so I'm aware, so I don't crash into it. Oh wow! So if you were on the stream yesterday, on the stream yesterday,
Albuquerque Center on 132.9er. Good day.
okay.
132.9er, Cessna 69er X-ray. Goodbye. Albuquerque Center.
So yeah, if you
Cessna,
remember our
November
stream yesterday,
7769er,
I had to land on a
X-ray
weird dirt
9,200
road,
feet.
and I'm like, what kind of runway is this? Is this like a cartel runway? Because there were no lights, there was no nothing on it. Now look at it. Those blue lights let me know where the runway was all along. And we made that landing. But as you can see, it's easier to see certain things at night than it is at daytime. So these blue lights denote what the perimeter of a runway is. So I could have seen it had I been flying at night, but I wasn't. Alright, so we're at 9,200 feet. We're literally right at the border of having all of you need oxygen. And because it's nighttime, this plane isn't bouncing all over the place because of turbulence. So what's really cool about flying out here is when the sun is out, you have so much thermal convective forces that pull you up and then push you down and then pull you up again. And instead of saying, oh, it's turbulent, we just like to say, oh, the air is very dynamic. Yeah, it's dynamic. Because if you go into it saying, oh, the air is so turbulent, you're already going in with a bad kind of view of the sky. So you're immediately just like, oh, it's turbulent and scary. Ooh, woo. No, she's dynamic. And at night, it's a lot calmer, it looks like. Wow. That same dirt cartel runway actually did have lights. And when I tried landing at it at daytime, it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack in a coal mine on Jupiter whilst you're drunk and you're wearing beer goggles. It was impossible to find. But, okay, so let's take a look at our fuel state. Fuel state's looking good. Fuel flow looking great. Our exhaust gas temperature is going up a bit. Had I looked at the actual pilot operating handbook for this airframe, I would know what to set my EGT bug to, which is, hey, you don't want to go over this temperature, but it's looking pretty low. I think we're fine. I don't think she's overheating. We can also verify that by looking at our oil temperature. Our oil temperature is good, it's in the green. Oil pressure, also looking great, in the green. So all things considered, all systems nominal. We have nothing to worry about. For now. I feel like as long as we're following the I-40, we're going to be A-okay when it comes to getting to Albuquerque. And as you can see, our ground speed has now gone up. We're at 111 knots of ground speed in comparison to what we're indicating here at 90 knots. There is a way to calculate it using the Garmin GNS 430 here, but I didn't learn that much yet. I'm new. I'm just baby, okay? I'm baby pilot. So I don't know how to use all of this yet. But I know how to use a lot of it, but not all of it. Okay. So the way that we can do this is we can switch over to density, altitude, TAS, true airspeed, and winds. Oh, wow. So it's saying we have a 34 knot tailwind. So we have a 34 knot tailwind. Indicated as 90. And our calibrated air. Okay, so if we plug in all of this, we should be able to know our true performance. So let's set our indicated altitude. Indicated altitude, we are at 9,200 feet. Let's plug that in. 9,200 feet. So we have that. Oh my god. Okay, so we have that plugged in. Let's see. Indicated altitude 0, 9. This is so much easier when you're actually turning the physical things. 9,200. Calibrated airspeed 80, 85, 90. So we're at 85. So we're gonna set that. Calibrated airspeed is 85 knots. And our, oh my god, I keep accidentally clicking out of it. 9,200, yes. Calibrated airspeed 85 knots. 85. Barometric pressure. So for our barometric pressure, altimeter is 29er89er. So we're gonna go down here. We're gonna set that to 29er89er. 29er89er. It's recalibrating. Okay. 29er89er. So let's plug that in. 29er89er. Oh my god. I keep doing this. I need to hit enter, and I just keep tabbing over. 2, 9er, 8, 9er. Thank you. Enter. Okay. So now it's calibrated how we're actually flying. So, wow. The density altitude is actually 9,600 feet. So our aircraft is performing as if it's at 9,600 feet instead of 9,200 feet. And also it's asking for our temperature. So let's plug that in. Our temperature in centigrade is 8 degrees. So it's positive 8 degrees Celsius. Oh. And it just disappeared. It didn't like that. Okay, cool. Okay. So true airspeed, we're actually flying at 97 knots and we have a 46 knot headwind. Lovely. We're starting to deviate a little bit off of our purple line here, so that's strange because if I have my nav mode set to GPS, it shouldn't be doing that. So let's change our CDI here. So it still says GPS. Still says GPS. That's ARM. Why is nav mode not illuminating? I don't know if I'm having an autopilot problem or if this is a skill issue. That definitely makes everyone feel comfortable, right? When the pilot says, I can't figure out the autopilot. Doesn't that make you feel so confident as a passenger? Guys, I don't know what's wrong with the autopilot. It's not making sense. Yeah, like it says nav mode is ARM. That's a goddamn lie. So I'm going to turn off autopilot, turn it back on, and now put nav mode on. Wow, it's not. It's just not listening to me. All right, that's fine. I know how to fly this by hand, so we're going to fly this by hand. And I think I also want to turn off some of these lights in the panels. Everyone does not need to see me from the ground. But my bright... Yeah, now that looks good. Okay. So autopilot is off right now. I'm just letting her do her thing here. Yeah, let's turn down those panels. Oh, now this looks sexy. This is some good old mood lighting in the aircraft. All right. So what I'm trying to do is we're going to try to catch this intercept like through here, and then what I'm going to do is, seeing as nav mode is giving me a hard time, what we can do is I'm going to put it back into autopilot, and we're going to use our manual heading bug. So I can literally, once I hit my intercept on this radial here, I'm just going to say, okay, now I want you to track, what's that? 077 degrees. So from now, what I can do, we're going to go down to our heading bug, that is on our HSI, horizontal situational indicator, and we're going to switch it on over to 070, which is that bug right in between there. And let's turn back on our autopilot, and then we're going to go down to heading mode. So the heading is already selected for us. So now she's going to bank over towards that heading.
Cessna 69er X-ray, contact Albuquerque Center on 124.325. Good day.
Going to 124.325 Cessna 69er X-ray. Albuquerque Center, Cessna, November 7769er X-ray 9100 feet.
So we're still flying along the I-40.
Cessna November 7769er X-ray, Albuquerque Center, altimeter 29.9er, 1 radar contact. Continue.
Alright, everyone. So remember at the beginning of the flight I said, yeah, it's very hard for you to find yourself being bored while flying in a small airplane. Yeah, now you can see why, because there's so many things that you have to be mindful of while you're flying, and then also it's such a small plane that you're actually quite involved in the process, and you really shouldn't feel like, oh, I'm bored. It's like driving a car that's standard shift. You get bored driving automatic cars. You don't get bored driving a manual. Unless if it's a boring car by default. Then I don't know what to tell you. Alright. So here we're still deviating a bit off course here. So I still have heading mode on. So I'm just going to shift my heading bug just a little bit by twisting this knob down here. And then that should bring us back on course. Alright. Local time 18. Okay, so our current flight time, we have been flying for approximately 58 minutes, according to this. I don't believe that. I think it's counting 58 minutes from the moment we turned on the aircraft. RPMs are looking good. So I'm playing with a career mode add-on. So this plane is a rental, and since this plane is a rental, technically I could redline it all the way to my destination, but you don't want to redline your engine because you don't want it to go out while you're flying. So let's not do that. I think what it's doing is it's looking for the localizer, but I'm too far out for it to catch a localizer. So, and I have a message here, set course is 077. That's exactly what I've done. Ground speed is now 120 knots. We're now at 8,000 feet, approximately. I kind of want to bring us up to 9,000 again. Just so we can get there fast. You know what? I might just do that. So we're going to arm vertical speed on. And we're going to set vertical speed to 400 feet per minute. So I've now set it to 400 feet per minute for us to climb. I'm going to be staring at this airspeed indicator for dear life. You see, it's starting to move down. So that means we're starting to lose speed. I don't want to lose too much speed because then we're going to start stalling. So I'm going to drop my feet per minute from 400. Let's just do 200 feet per minute. And we're going to start to see this airspeed not bleed off as quickly. Almost 95% of things involving flight rely on airspeed. You need airspeed. If you don't have airspeed, how do you fly? So we have to be very mindful of our airspeed, especially when you have the autopilot doing something that involves climbing or descending. Because it's very easy to just tell it to do something involving climbing or descending. You're not paying attention, and you either end up climbing so much to the point where you stall, and then what goes up must come down, or if you're not paying attention and you're descending and you go too fast, you run the risk of tearing your wings off, and that's bad. Yeah, you don't want to do that. No. And to answer the elephant in the room of a question, no, pilots do not go up there with parachutes. All right. I always love that question. People ask me, like, so do you guys, like, wear a parachute when you go up there? And I'm like, my sister and Satan, have you ever been inside of a small plane? You can't even fit your intrusive thoughts in there, much less a parachute. So, is the Earth flat or what, my G? Give me the answers. Yo, oi, the jury's still out. The jury's still out, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't know, it looks pretty flat to me, bro. Wow. But this full moon straight up has the whole sky, just doesn't even feel like nighttime. But to answer the question, yes, it's all a matter of perspective. The Earth can be flat if you wanted to. I'm not going to fight you. Oh. But what we're going to have to fight is look at that airspeed. Remember we were flying at a cool 85 knots before? Now we're at 70. We're slowly dropping down to 65. So, we're going to hold ourselves back into level flight. So I'm going to put her back into level flight so we can gain some more airspeed again. Because I'm trying to get to Albuquerque fairly quickly. Yeah, wow. That climb that we decided to do really killed our ground speed. Our ground speed is... We were at like 115 knots before. Yeah, wow. RPMs are dropping. So essentially what's happening here is the higher up you go, the more you're going to need to pull your mixture. What is your mixture? It's this little red thing here. So what your mixture does, it controls your fuel and air mixture. As you go up in the air becomes thinner. So therefore you don't need as much fuel inside of it, inside of your lines. You notice when I pull the fuel out, my RPMs go up? Kind of counterintuitive, huh? You'd imagine the more fuel or the more rich your mixture is, the more performance. But as you get higher and higher up, and there is less and less air to use, when that's replaced with more and more fuel and more carbon buildup, you start to get less engine performance. So we're going to pull the mixture back, and you notice it starts to sound a little louder. And look at our RPMs. Our RPMs are almost getting to redline. And I just had to pull the mixture out as we're climbing. Again, one of the reasons why flying a small plane never gets boring, because you have to manage so much involving your engine and everything. Alright. Alright, nice. Our ground speed is coming up nicely. We're now at 128 knots ground speed. Again, we are deviating a little bit off our course here. We have some... I'm having some sort of problem right now with our autopilot. You need not fret. I know how to fly without it. But it's not letting us just automatically track where we're trying to get to. So as a result, I'm having to manually do my course corrections via using the heading bug here, and just by turning it, the airplane will begin its bank. And I'm going to have it turn, re-intercept that line, and then we're going to make another left bank to kind of re-establish ourselves. Looking at some of our nearest airports here, we have a airport close by. I don't foresee us needing to necessarily use it right now, but it's good to know that we have some options. We have an airport that is 26 nautical miles away. We have another one 31 miles. What else do we got here? We have one 31 miles. But see, all of these airfields that we see in the beginning here, none of them have a radio frequency, unlike P14, which we just passed. You see how we have a radio frequency of 122.8? That lets me know that there is a localizer, so I can fly an instrument approach if I need to. Everything else here doesn't have that. So that lets me also know that these are probably uncontrolled airports. These are airports that I have to let everyone in the area know, hey, I'm going to be landing, don't crash into me. And that's good to know during our flight, because then I know that everything that's close to me right now, I probably will not be able to ask for vectors from a tower to bring me there safely. I'm going to have to navigate it myself. So it's good to know that that's what I have to expect. Take a look at the flight plan here. Okay. Wow, we spent so long with our heads buried in the panels that anything could have happened on the outside and we would have missed it. Alright. Currently my RPMs are a little high, so let's peel that back just a bit. This plane may be a rental, but we want her to get us to our destination safely. Let's not overstress our engine. Uh-oh. Ooh. Okay, we're good. I'm gonna get us reestablished on course here. And it seems like my mouse has decided to leave the mortal coil. I'm gonna go find a charger. So yeah, I'm gonna step away from the airplane and it's not in autopilot. And that's okay because I have trimmed the aircraft perfectly for straight and level flight. So even as I walk away, she should be keeping herself level. And this is the perfect moment for me to really put my money where my mouth is. Alright, I'll be right back. Oh no, I'm looking at that feet per minute go down. Okay, I'll be right back. See what I tell you? Perfect. Alright, so we're going to put it back in autopilot. That should stay nice and level here. And I'm going to go feed Checkmate. In case you don't know who Checkmate is my dog. He's my best bloody friend. And he needs to eat. Checkmate, you hungry? Hungry? Oh, okay. I'll be back. Okay. Everything is looking good right now. What isn't looking good is the fact that my mouse is dead. That's weird. I may need that. Let's see. Oh wow, this mouse is like dead. Yeah, wow, nothing is charging. Oh. Oh no. 54 minutes until our arrival. It's gonna absolutely fly. That was a good pun, right? There we go. She just didn't like that one wire. Like this one, no? Right. I just got a spicy text message while I'm in the middle of flying, and I'm like, oh my. Don't worry, no one's in trouble. No one's in trouble. Yeah, no, it was a text message from the FAA. They said, hey, what are you doing? Stop giving advice. And I said, yes, chef. Sorry. No, like, imagine if I did get a text from the FAA and they're like, hey, what are you doing over there? You're flying at night in the middle of a simulator. What makes us think you're not gonna try to do some crazy stunt like that, huh? When you start your lessons next month, huh? So. Oh, it's crazy. I was so nervous about streaming for so long. I've always been so nervous about it, and I'm like, it's not that bad. You essentially just do something and then talk into the void. It's basically what I do every day in my life anyway. I always talk to the void. But then sometimes the void talks back. In streams. The void does not speak back to me in real life. FAA, please, I am fine. Don't worry. Alright. So we're slightly off course yet again. So we're going to go back and we are going to utilize our heading select. And we're going to bring her back on over. So she's making a right-hand bank. We're going to be keeping an eye on our airspeed as we're banking. Because remember, airspeed is what keeps us alive. So when the aircraft banks, what happens is you are now splitting in half the forces that provide lift, as well as the forces that provide, basically you're essentially splitting your center of lift against gravity, so it's not working perfectly in tandem in a straight line anymore. It's slightly canted like this. So the weight of the aircraft is going like that, gravity's pulling you like this, so therefore lift has to work extra time to keep you up. So that's why when you bank, you want to be super mindful that when you're banking, your airspeed is still maintaining at a constant rate, because you are splitting those two important forces of flight and forcing them to fight against each other. So if you've learned anything from this random flight sim moment with me, is when you are climbing or descending with autopilot, look at your airspeed. If you're banking, look at your airspeed. If you're taking off, look at your airspeed. If you're landing, look at your airspeed. Just look at your airspeed, okay? Well, look at everything else, but there's a reason, to me, the way that I've always perceived it, there's a reason why airspeed sits at the top left of your six-pack. This is the most important thing. Think of it like how we, or at least in our culture, in a lot of cultures that read from left to right, imagine this is the elaborate T at the beginning of SpongeBob's essay where he writes the airspeed importante. Then after that, your attitude. All right, so you gotta check your speed and then check your attitude. All right, and then you check your altitude. That's your altimeter. Not saying that your vertical speed indicator is the least important. It is important. But what I've learned is vertical speed, this becomes important when you're landing. It's not so much as important whilst you're flying. It is important while you're flying, but you don't want to rely on it too much whilst you're flying, because you're going to think that you're flying level, and you're not, because there's thermals. And then you end up finding out that, oh, you're way too high and you were supposed to be lower because you were just looking at the vertical speed indicator and it has a lag. All right, so reading from top left to bottom right. Airspeed, very important. Attitude, secondarily important, but still important. And your altitude. Alright. So I'm looking out the window here, and I'm noticing that the terrain is starting to become a little bit closer to us in regards to altitude. So I'm going to take a look at our relative terrain map, and as you can see, now we're starting to get some yellows again. So these yellows are letting me know, hey buddy, you're cutting it close in regards to altitude. So here we have a yellow patch that we're coming up to. We're going to be seeing this right over our left wing soon. So let's take a look over our left wing and see what's there that could be of concern. Okay, you can see these little ridges here. So it's letting me know, oi, be mindful of these ridges. You're flying pretty close to them in relation to your current altitude and the elevation of the terrain feature. Over here, over the right wing, we're going to spot a red cell, which is going to let us know this is really high up, and we probably cannot cross it. And it looks like this ridge over here. So we're just going to keep an eye on our relative terrain. We're also going to be making a track closer towards the northeast here. And as I'm looking out the windshield at the horizon, I'm starting to notice some undulation in the silhouettes of the terrain. So this lets me know, okay, we're gonna be meeting up on terrain that we cannot traverse at our current altitude. So I'm looking at all of this from now. So then we can make decisions in advance of meeting up with these terrain features. And let me take a double look here. So this is punched out to 200 nautical miles, as you can read down here. So this terrain map is looking out 200 nautical miles ahead of us, so it's picking up all of this. So if it's reading all the way out to 200 nautical miles, I could say that about here is about 50. So within 50 nautical miles, we're going to see a peak for which we're going to need to make a decision in regards to how do we traverse it. Don't these look like little smiley faces? Is that just me, or do they look like smiley faces? I think they look like smiley faces. Wow, look at the smiley face street lights. And you see, I'm saying this instead of looking out the bloody windshield and flying the plane. Alright. I don't like our relative altitude right now to the ground. I'm feeling like we're flying kind of low. So this is a good time to mention our altimeter. So you notice how this altimeter here, it's reading that we're at 8,900 or like what, 8,950 about. The way that you can tell is the small hand is in multiples of thousands, the long hand is in multiples of 100, and the really long one with the fan looking thing on the end and the triangle, that's in 10,000s of feet. So if we're flying so high, why is the ground so low? Well, this is measuring in mean sea level. So this is us in relation to the sea. Alright, if you know anything about the Southwest United States, it is high as hell. It is high up in the sky. Alright, Flagstaff sits at approximately 7,500 feet for the runways. Mesa Falcon Field is at 1,500 feet. And New York City JFK, I think, is at 63 feet. Just to compare. None of us are 63 feet tall, but 63 feet versus 7,000 odd. As you can see, that's a stark difference there. So with that being said, I'm going to need to start to make some decisions in regards to altitude. Do we divert course? Or do we fly through the terrain? There are no wrong answers, class. Don't worry. Because we can pick one of either. We're not going to fly directly into the terrain, of course. We're not going to fly into terrain. But we can, just by judging on this map, we can make some educated decisions along the way to avoid an accident. Because, yeah, we have a patch of yellow here. So if I divert my course to the east just a bit more, we can pass that. and then we can fly right in the middle of this spot here, which puts us right in between all of that scary terrain, and we don't have to worry about it. Because also we're flying at night, and when you're flying at night, you don't want to mess with elevation and stuff. I just don't think you should. Don't tempt the powers that be. But bloody hell, look at this view! Oh man, this is just gorgeous. Alright. So we're still along the I-40 here. Before we put our foots in our foots. I just did it. I was about to say, before we put our feet in our mouth, let's actually look at the map, and I just said, before we put our foots in our mouth. Nice. Alright. It looks like you could technically... Can I see Albuquerque from here? Like, if you follow along the I-40, it looks... Yeah, I just have to follow it all the way. And we may possibly be able to see a glow coming off of the city from a distance. So stay tuned for that. Okay, that's weird. That looks interesting. I was looking at a separate elevation map, because it never hurts to have more maps. It turns out there's a lot more terrain further ahead that's higher up than this. And I think I can start to see it from here. Yeah, in relation to that, we are not higher up. If any, we're almost flying co-altitude to this peak, and then it starts to lower down out here. And according to this map, this is when we're going to meet our approach fix. So all of these triangles here, those are the fixes that we're going to fly towards. So you can think of it almost like connecting the dots, if you will, and then you draw a line through the dots that you're connecting to. So that's essentially what we see over here. That's what these triangles are. So that's going to be where we're going to start to clean up the plane. We're going to start to get ourselves ready to descend and coming for landing. And we do have quite a bit of terrain in between, but I'm not nervous in the slightest about it, because see, we're doing all of this far in advance. Right, so let's change our tabs over. We're going to go back to nav. Our estimated time is going down. We're at 42 minutes. So we're going to be landing in 42 minutes. We are 84 miles out from where we're trying to go. And, oh, you see? Here goes a big red spike. So we have a big red spike of terrain that we're coming up to here. And see, this is why you don't follow the track just all the way point A to point B, fall asleep, and hope you get there. No, pilots have actually lost their lives that way. So you don't just want to just fly straight, direct to, if there's going to be terrain in between. You still need to be somewhat aware, and you need to divert if need be. So yeah, it's happened to many a pilot, especially when there's weather involved. So it's strange to think about, but this is considered night VFR, where you can use visual flight rules at night, because we don't have instrument meteorological conditions. I mean, look at this meteorology. She clear. This air is clear. This air is moisturized. She is in her lane. This weather's a baddie and she knows it. Oh, this weather's showing her panty, you know? And look at this moon. Like, I mean, this weather is chef's kiss. So I can easily see the terrain in front of me. But there have been cases where people have just flown direct to a waypoint in bad weather and did not take into consideration the terrain along the way. And some of those pilots, of course, don't have advanced avionics like this, which can tell me that terrain data as I'm flying. So it's easy to get complacent, but don't do it. And even when you're in a sim, you kind of have to mentally kind of think like that. So that's coming. I mildly cringe when people ask me like, "Oh my god, now can you crash it?" It's just like, I mean, isn't that the lowest hanging possible fruit? Like, really? Alright, anyway, nerd rant over about my passion. That is my little plane game here. Wow. So you could just see like one person just driving along in the middle of the desert. Probably pretty accurate. Looks like there's a bit of a rest stop over there. Or that could be a small airfield. I mean, in a plane like this, and in such open air, like in environments like this, roadways can become a runway if you're brave enough, or if you need them to be. Wow. Okay, so yeah, the fact that I can start to make out cars underneath also makes me feel like we're flying a little low. Yeah, we can start to see the terrain. The terrain really has come up since we've last taken a look out the window. So I'm gonna just start to begin with a slight adjustment to my vertical speed. Just gonna make sure that's armed, vertical speed, armed. We're gonna set this up. Let's just do 200 feet per minute. We're gonna do 200 feet per minute, and we're gonna verify it here. Bang. So we're going 200 feet per minute. 200 feet per minute. So everyone is speaking to each other, unlike our government. Oh damn. Too on the nose was that? That was a bit too on the nose, isn't it? Sorry, I'll scale it back. Anyway. Okay. We can see that we've got this red splotch here in the terrain. That's that. That's that mountain peak here. We cannot cross this at this altitude. We need to climb. And we are already almost pushing 9,100 feet here. So I'm thinking we're still going to be very gentle here with our climb. I can probably pull my mixture out just a bit more, can I? I can't, to get more power. Oh, if I push it in, it tanks. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have to leave the mixture as it is. This is the most performance I'm gonna be getting out of this little Cessna 172 at this altitude right now. So, okay, this is a severe density altitude situation that we're in right now. So all of our adjustments need to be very cautious, methodical, and early. Because we have less air molecules to work with our flight right now. So we're gonna keep an eye on our airspeed. We're gonna make sure that this stays nice, and I like 85 knots. 85 knots feels good as a power setting to climb right now. I should be actually looking at what my reference speeds are. I wonder if I would have that anywhere on the aircraft. Probably not. I should. Technically, all of that should have been calculated even before I even got in the sky. Not gonna lie. Damn, that rhyme. Ooh, I'm sly. Oh, I would fly. Okay, alright, let's stop before I make the whole room dry. I need to be stopped. Alright. As you can see, this red splotch is starting to wane away. You see and the yellow is starting to get smaller. Good sign. That means that we are climbing above the danger, so to speak. But as we climb, our engine is struggling because the air is thinner. So she's just like, please, may I have more air, sir? I would like to complete my cycle of suck, squeeze, bang, blow, which is intake, compression, combustion, and exhaust, alright? So right now we're struggling in the intake compartment because we don't have that much air, because this is a low-powered aircraft and we're at a high altitude. Therefore, we have less air that's going into our cylinders to be compressed, right? So that fuel-air mixture, there's less air in it. There's a lot of fuel, but there's less air in it. So now when we go to combust, we didn't have that much air to begin with, so that exhaust stroke that is going to be turning our prop is even weaker. So with that, we have to, I essentially have my throttle weld all the way up right now. So I have about full throttle. I'm trying to let in as much air into this engine as possible as we're getting higher and higher and it's becoming thinner and thinner. And I'm doing that so I can maintain my airspeed. So that's how it all comes together. And whilst we're doing that, we're keeping an eye on this, our oil temperature. And our oil temperature is slowly creeping up. Has to be expected because we're demanding more from our engine. Right, so let's have a look at our terrain map over here. As we can see, this red splotch, this red splotch or splash, or you see it's getting smaller and smaller. It's now becoming a non-issue. All right, we are successfully climbing above the dangerous terrain that is around us, which it's kind of hard to make out here, but this city is being clipped by what looks to be a plateau about here. So you notice how these the lines for these street lights stop and then they start again? Yeah, there's something very, very tall here that's blocking it. And that's what this is here. And I'm curious about this peak that's out here. So if we were to punch out this zoom, there it is, just slightly there in the corner. So based on this map, we can tell we are going to get there before we hit that mountain. So it's going to be within the confines of that peak. Alright, so I think we've climbed high enough, so I'm going to stop our climb here. We are currently holding at 10,100 feet. So, everyone put on your oxygen masks, okay? Hypoxia is no joke. And especially at night. You can easily, like, what happens is your ability to see color starts to diminish at lower altitudes than 10,000 feet at night, and that's just due to hypoxia, which can onset way, way earlier at lower altitudes at night. So, just a little fun fact. Alright, so we're going to move our heading bug over again. In case you missed it, nav mode is broken on our autopilot at the moment. I don't know what it is. I'm pretty sure this is user error. This is all my fault. But in order to keep ourselves on course, I have heading select mode on. So heading select mode on, and we are manually adjusting the heading bug here. We had to deviate a bit from our original flight track due to the fact that we had a lot of terrain in the area, and we can't just fly straight through terrain. Alright, I know there may be some quantum physicists in the audience that are like, well, you can pass through that terrain, and yes, okay, yeah, you're right. But the odds of that happening, I'm not going to risk my skin. So we can't fight through the terrain, everyone. So as a result, you needed to deviate, and that's where we are slightly off track to the keen-eyed people that may be looking at this flight computer and saying, "But you're not on the line, bro." Oh yeah, trust me, I'm so not on the line. This is punched out to 100 nautical miles. Wait until I go down to 20 miles. Now we're at 10 miles. I am very much off the course, and I know that I am. Because I want to make sure everyone gets there safely. Speaking of getting there safely, we're going to be there in less than half an hour. Right now, we've got a track to arrive at our destination airport at 29 minutes. So 29 minutes, we're about 60 miles out of where we're coming into land. Weather's looking great, as you can see. It's just gorgeous, beautiful. And we're going to be coming in for a landing at runway 22. Runway 22, that just means that it points at 220 degrees. That's really what it means, yeah. So, as a result, if you have a runway that's runway 36, that runway is pointed perfect north, perfect 360. So if you have a runway that's pointed perfect north, runway 36, the opposite runway is going to be runway 18 for 180 degrees, that's south. So if you ever hear anything in like a movie and they're like, "Oh, so-and-so 11, yeah, you're clear to land at runway 45 right," that's a lie. There's no runway 45. Runway 45 can't exist. It's runways 0 to 36. No, not even runway 0. No, it's runway 1 to 36. Yeah. So, yeah. Ground speed currently 128 knots. So we're making good progress. And we are now 27 minutes away. This did not feel like an hour and a half flight, I will tell you that. It felt like I was only flying for half an hour because there's so much to do. Ooh, I wonder what city that is over our left wing here. Let's take a look. Let's see. What are we close to? This may be Grants? Yeah, okay, so this looks like Grants, New Mexico. We should be able to see Albuquerque straight ahead of us. Oh wow, that could be Albuquerque. Out in the distance where we see that glow. I think that may be Albuquerque. So we're almost there. That is so cool. You can see the glow from the city in the distance. Holy light pollution, Batman. We love it. Personally, I love the light pollution while I'm up here because I can see where I'm going. It sucks when you're down there and then you can't see the stars. But speaking of the stars, wow. You can even see a little bit of the band of the Milky Way galaxy. I've done some night flights in Flight Sim in some very dark places where you can see this beautifully. And it looks jaw-dropping when you're doing this in VR also. not a single cloud in the sky. New Yorkers can relate, am I right? I just still can't get over that. Like, I moved to the desert, and then New York City ends up on fire. Like, what? And then almost 3 months of no rain. And what's insane is that it's rained here in Arizona in between that time. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. All right. Oh, look at that in the distance. We're almost there, everybody. Wow. We're almost to Breaking Bad land. Walter's already telling me to get out of his territory. That is one thing I will say about Breaking Bad. I loved it so much. I watched it for the first time in totality with my partner. When was that? Like last month, just before moving. And I just did not expect there to be a moment where airplane stuff was mentioned. And oh man, that air traffic control scene. Cinema. But actually very, very nerve-wracking, and that actually sent chills up my spine, because that is a very, yeah. I think that goes without saying. I don't think I need to elaborate anymore on how absolutely god-awful that would be if that were to happen in real life. But it's also just insane to think this one man caused all of this to happen in Albuquerque. I mean, come on, man. Really, Walter? Really? You're out here orchestrating mass prison hits, causing planes to crash into each other, poisoning young children, all for what? Come on, Walter. Do better, Walter. Oh, well, he can't. He's dead. But of course, there would be no way that we would be flying to Albuquerque and I would not make a Breaking Bad reference. Alright? We were all put on this planet to cut each other some slack. Okay, so cut me some slack. Thank you. Alright. Let's take a look at our ETA now. We are 23 minutes out. This 23 minutes is a very rough estimation. I am almost certain that if we were to fly on course again, that number would go down. Fuel quantity is looking great. I'm gonna cut down on my fuel just a bit. Let's lower that fuel flow. We're out here burning fuel like aviation gas isn't expensive. Because yeah, there comes a point where the amount of fuel that you're asking the plane to use, it just can't be burned efficiently, so you're essentially just burning money. Like, you were already burning up money in dinosaurs when you start an engine, but like at that point, now you're just now you're just being evidently like edible levels of rich. Like, okay, really? You're at a point where now you're just pissing petrol away? Yeah, no. Where will you hide when the revolution comes? we can see Albuquerque really starting to illuminate from here. We are 42 miles. We are 42 miles out from Albuquerque. And to think this drive would have been like 6 hours if this were a drive. Okay, maybe 4 hours. Yeah, 4 or 5 hours. Our total flight time, we're at 1 minute 51. I should have set the timer at takeoff, but I didn't. Yeah, like I should have taken off and then reset flight time, but I didn't. So we can subtract about 20 or so minutes. So let's say, yeah, this was an hour and a half flight, which would have been a 4-hour drive. Well, also it all depends on how you drive too. You can technically say it also depends on how you fly, but there are too many variables there that it's really hard to quantify, because yeah, if someone has the money for an aircraft that is capable of one, having a pressurized cockpit and you can fly above 10,000 feet, oh yeah, you're gonna get places way faster, but you're gonna end up spending a lot more money on maintaining that thing later on. So it's very, you can't just say, well, yeah, you can fly there faster. It depends on a lot. It depends on what you're flying, what the conditions are, and what's legal. Remember that. What's legal. So, either way, this is faster than driving from Arizona. Alright. We have now crossed the 20-minute mark. We are less than 20 minutes to land. Wow. So, just in case I did enter my approach procedures, just in case if we needed to use them, I didn't quite know what the conditions were going to be in regards to landing, whether I can land visual or if I should land instrument. So I loaded it in just in case, but it's looking like I can shoot this approach and land without a problem. I'm almost wondering, because of the track that we're taking, I probably shouldn't be landing at runway 22. I shouldn't land at runway 22. I should land at the opposite of 22. And my brain is not working. What's the opposite of 22? Is that 6? My brain is like, so my brain is a very malleable Play-Doh at the moment. But we're almost there. We're 18 minutes out. Yay. So yeah, I'm gonna probably land at the opposing radial runway. So instead of 22, I'm gonna land at the opposite of 22. And I'm flight school baby, okay? I can't work this out in my head yet, but I'm gonna land at that opposite runway. So in order for us to do that, let's actually load up our procedures again. So I'm going to load our procedure. We're going to switch our approach. So select approach. Oh, it's runway 4. That's the opposite. Okay. Yeah, we're just going to do vectors. We're going to load. So I'm going to shoot RNAV 4. Did I get that right, or did I get that wrong? Knowing me, I probably got that wrong. But we're 50 miles out. You know what? I could probably eyeball this approach anyway. I do not need the approach vectors. I can fly direct to final. Because as much as there are things here to help you, it's easy to overcomplicate things. If you know you can fly the approach, just fly the approach. I think if it's really gonna get in your way. Okay. Why do I feel somewhat... I feel... Why do I feel nervous about shooting that approach? Like, not shooting the approach. I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm fine. We're fine, everyone. We're okay. We're okay. I'm just... getting my head all bothered. Okay. Wow. We are looking great. We are... That's just crazy that, like, all those lights illuminate the foothills of this mountain here. Albuquerque, come on, turn your lights down. Now all of China knows you're here. It's okay, so in case you don't know, that is a Mulan reference, alright? I don't want anyone thinking I'm like a xenophobe or anything. I have no problem with the Chinese. It's just a Mulan reference that all of China knows we're here, okay? Calm down. "14 minutes and ticking down." Just so peaceful. Wow. What's gonna change my life? Oh my gosh, no, I look weird in blue light. Not a fan of the green. The red is fitting. I mean, we are night flying after all, so it should be red. Alright. Red helps you see in the outside in the dark better. That's why I love setting all of my house lights to red at night, so then I can see if anyone is bumping in the night around. Alright, so seeing as we're now approaching much busier airspace, we're going to turn on our traffic map. Alright, so traffic standby. I'm gonna set that to ADS on. I'm gonna punch out our range a bit. Wow, we don't have any traffic within 40 nautical miles of us. So that's good. Wouldn't want to crash into anybody. And also from what I can just judge by looking outside of the aircraft right now, I don't see any strobe lights, I don't see any beacon lights, I don't see any other fellow sky lovers. Whoa, but I do see a flood of red lights over there, and I wonder what is that? And that's off our left wing. If that's off our left wing, what is that? Do I have a satellite map? Show me. Can't quite discern what could be out here that's causing all these red lights.
Cessna 69er X-ray contact Albuquerque approach on 127.4.
Okay.
Good day.
Contact Albuquerque approach.
Going to 127.4, Cessna 69er X-ray. Albuquerque approach Cessna, November 7769er X-ray 0,100 feet.
Cessna November 7769er X-ray Albuquerque approach altimeter 30.06.
Altimeter
radar contact.
30.6. Okay. Okay, altimeter 3006. So 3006. So 300. Okay. So the reason why we always have to tune our altimeter is because air pressure changes in places. And my altimeter needs to know what the air pressure is in order to give me a correct altitude readout. So ever so often I have to retune the barometric pressure of the altimeter so that the altitude that I'm reporting is actually the altitude I'm flying at. Oh, looks like I lost video here. Let's see. Wow, I'm like so brilliant. I fixed it. Oh my god. Yeah, you'd hope I know how to use this streaming software, right? Okay. Yeah, so we were right. So that glow that we had seen from a distance, that is indeed Albuquerque. Wow. Oh, I just love seeing city lights from the sky. It's just so cool. Now comes the hard part. We have all these lights. Which one is the runway? So what I'm doing is we're punching a little bit closer in the map zoom so we can be able to split all of this apart. And you know what? It's a good thing I loaded that bloody approach because I don't feel too thrilled about it. So we're gonna set approach. Flight plan. No, not flight plan. We go to procedures. So we go to procedures. Go down to activate approach. And activate that approach. Now, will you accept it? It doesn't want to accept it. Interesting. Okay. That's fine. We're gonna fly this approach and land it by hand. For some reason, again, my brain just feels very, very malleable and soft, which is a good sign to stop flying. No one wants to fly when you don't have all of your faculties back. No, I just had a fatiguing day. I went to the DMV. I don't think I have to say anything more beyond that. Everyone knows the DMV is a very fatiguing place. It's just full of... I feel like it's just a weird energy vampire disco that you walk into. That's the DMV. Yeah. It's like, where's the cool club that like all the energy vampires hang out at? I really want to hang with them, the DMV. Alright. I feel like now you can all really get a feel for just how slow this plane is. Because we've been looking over at the city for how long, and you can kind of see some of the lights as reference. You see how slowly they're moving underneath the dashboard of my instrument panel there? It's just so slow. Yeah, that's Cessna life, or at least that's Cessna 172 life. Checkmate heard a sound, and I heard it too, and he was sleeping, and he just like slowly puts his head up, and he's like, he looks at me, and then he's like, I'm gonna go investigate. And turns out it's just a cat. Alright, so now we're starting to see some beacon lights come up. We're starting to see some other aircraft, and oh, it's activated the approach. Perfect. So now it's going to fly this approach. Perfect. I was so nervous. I was just like, please, please, please catch this approach. Like, come on, autopilot, don't fail me now. And bang, it got it. So basically what needed to happen is we needed to fly within the range of those radio antennae that are going to be guiding us to the airport. So it was just like a moment there where I'm like, is it gonna catch it? Is it gonna catch it? But also due to our relative altitude, I think, to the localizer antennae themselves, probably if we were flying higher, we would have been able to catch it earlier. But oh well. I didn't want to fly too high. I was just kind of like, can I stay on the Bravo? And Bravo airspace, that's where all the commercial planes are. So I'm kind of like, can I just not? Okay, so it's shooting the RNAV approach. And it's looking good. Alright, so there goes our runway. I think that's us. Let's punch in a little closer. No, it should be off our left. Oh no, I think that is us. Yeah. Alright. We're looking good, everyone. Oh, yes. Lovely, lovely, lovely. We're gonna land safely. We were already going to land safely, just for the record. It's just that I was hoping that it could do a full automated approach to landing. One, just because it's good to practice the procedure of how to do that, and two, I just didn't want to embarrass myself on stream. I tuned all of it up, so it's like, please work. Please work. So we're actually flying pretty high. I think we can take this approach visual now. Cause yeah, I'm starting to see the runway lights. I'm starting to see like the airfield lights at least. I thought this would be a much more illuminated airfield, but it's not. But that's okay. So yeah, let's actually make our way down. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to take off autopilot. So autopilot off, and this is perfect timing because we now have a low fuel light appearing for both of our fuel tanks here. So I calculated just how much fuel we were going to need for this flight perfectly, and we have extra in case we needed to go around. So that's great. So landing, we have to start to put in our mixture here. So I think we're supposed to have near full mixture, so I'm going to slowly enter that. So I'm going to start to add just a little bit more fuel to my mixture. I'm starting to see the bright, you see that bright light? That's going green and white. So that's letting me know, hey, everyone, it's free to land here. Don't worry. It's fine. And you see how it's steady? There's actual frequencies that will beat those lights to convey different messages, letting you know, hey, only helicopters can land here. Or, hey, land here at your own risk, it's a little dodgy, you know. Or, don't land here. And when it's in red, all reds, I think it's, you can't land here. So, it's really cool, all the information that can be shared with just lights. Yeah, crashing the QCC and then Bossa. Oh my god. Oi, Kev. See, that was the test stream. You should have been here for the test stream. I was doing stuff like that. Alright, so I see the runway over there over my right wing there. So we're gonna start to bank over. We're gonna go with a steady. I want to go with possibly like a steady 20-degree bank, 20 to 30-degree bank here as I'm descending. Let's put in a notch of flaps. Only 10 degrees because I don't want to overspeed my flaps. Here I can see my PAPI lights over on my right side, and they're all white at the moment. All white means that I'm flying kind of high. So the saying is all white, flying high, red and white, you're all right. All red, you're dead. So let's try not to be dead. Okay, cool. So our OBS meters are starting to respond. Oh no, it's not. Alright. We're gonna go down to 20 degrees of flaps here. We're starting to get a red, so that's a good indicator that we are starting to enter the correct glide. I want to maintain at least a 3-degree rate of descent, and my VREF speed, I'm going to say, is about 65 knots. So we're going to try to maintain that 65 knots on our way down. We're kind of flying low here, so I'm going to enter just a little bit more power. Just a little bit more power. I'm gonna put in full flaps, and we're gonna take the power away. I'm floating a bit. We're now in ground effect. I'm gonna hold that ground effect. I'm gonna hold her off. Hold her off. Looking at the end of the runway. Hold her off. Hold her off.
We have touchdown.
Beautiful. Great landing. We're gonna pull back on our stick here. I'm going to raise the
Transport dispatch.
flaps
Clear the
up,
runway and taxi to
and we're going to
parking.
start to apply our wheel brakes. Just a little bit at a time. We need to raise our flaps so that we can spoil the lift, so then our brakes on the ground can work better. And going to be gentle because brakes are expensive, and so are tires. So I don't want to melt my tires. I don't want to flat spot the tires. So we're going to be very, very gentle with our braking as we make our way to parking. Wow. That was a flight. We had a autopilot that was faulty. We had creepy terrain that was moving up on us. What else happened? We realized that it could be user error why the autopilot wasn't working and it was all my fault. And we learned about the importance of pre-planning things so that you don't crash into a mountainside. I think pretty much this was a successful flight, successful stream. According to my clock here, we have an elapsed flight time of 2 hours. No, 2 hours and 16 minutes. So that's a pretty healthy amount of flying, I think. And it warrants dinner, I think, yeah. So I don't know, you can kind of imagine, right, we've just landed in Albuquerque, we're going to try some proper Tex-Mex food because I'm sorry, New York City does not have good Tex-Mex. I said it. And I don't think anyone was really saying, yo, New York City is the hub for Tex-Mex, but I'm like, come on. But what doesn't hit the same is Chinese takeaway. Chinese takeout food here, it doesn't hit like New York City. Actually, I don't even think that they're playing the same sport. I don't know what this is here, but it ain't the proper New York City Chinese takeout food that I grew up on. But when in Rome, you don't do like the Mongolians. When in Rome, you do as the Romans do. So it's kind of dumb of me to even say, where's my New York City takeout food, when I'm not in New York City. So alright, so we're gonna taxi back to parking and we're gonna turn this bird off, and tomorrow we're going to continue our next leg of this farewell flight simulator tour. We're going to be doing Albuquerque to Oklahoma, I think. Is it Oklahoma? Yeah. So we're going to do Albuquerque to Oklahoma City. That one I'm really looking forward to because we're going to do that one at daytime. There's going to be a lot of terrain change. Hopefully we can afford a faster, more capable aircraft for this flight. I'm going to see if my career mode add-on gives us access to some twin engine props that we can rent for this next flight. And I'm also looking forward to the possibility of us running into some weather. We may run into a good amount of clouds on our next flight over to Oklahoma City. Or maybe we won't. Maybe it will just be as beautiful and picturesque as this evening's flight was. But either way, we'll see. And no, I'm not going to spare you from the most exciting part of flying, which is clearly taxiing. Everyone knows this is the most fun part of flying, when you get to drive your plane on the ground like it's a car, but like you have to use your feet to steer it. Yeah, that's like the best part of flying, everyone. Everyone loves it. It's great. Wow. Hey Andy. Yeah, I know, right? Planes are just so hot, bro. Like, why are airports just so hot? I just don't understand why do airplanes gotta be so bad? Why are they such baddies? I don't know. See, I'm hoping there's like a PhD in aeronautical science or aeronautical engineering student out there who's like writing his final dissertation paper, and they're just like, their thesis would be, well, why are airplanes such baddies though? A critical review of aviation throughout the century. Like, come on, now that is a thesis paper that I want to read. So I don't quite know where parking is, but I know that we are still... Oh, why did I take this taxiway? Yeah, we're gonna do a differential brake and turn around here. So full toe brake right, and it should turn on a dime. If you're not a bad pilot like me. Come on, boy. Come on, girl, you can do it. Oh, duh, the props tried to turn planes to the left. So I should be doing this on the other side, probably. Wow. Come on, Strata. That is like Physics 101. Yeah, I should have tried doing that the other way. Propellers have the tendency to pull the planes to the left. You could think of it like how a wheel kind of just moves in that direction. It kind of like pulls the plane the other way. So I should have thought about that, but as I said, my brain is mush at the moment. This person's username in the distance, I don't know if you could read it, but their name is Orange Cafefe. Well, that's a throwback. Orange Cafefe. Oh yes, thank you. I'm very, very smooth, aerodynamic. And also, this is the most fatiguing part of flying, when like after you've gone through all of the excitement and the thrill of flying, and then it's just like, oh, now I have to go back to parking. I'm tired, bro. And then you gotta like do your post-flight checklist, and then you gotta tie the plane down. You just want to go home, and the airfield's so damn big, you have to walk all the way across the airfield just to get to the parking lot to get to your car. And you're just like, bro, I just want to go home. Yeah, so that's also something to be mindful of when flying. Get home-itis is what they call it colloquially. And that's kind of like you're just so hell-bent on landing the plane, and you start to cut corners because you just really want to get home. And yeah, people have died because of that. So this is a sim and I'm experiencing it. But I'm staying sharp though. Awareness is the first step to anything. Oh my gosh, I love the various emojis for what my head looks like. It does look like a basketball and a football, and I am indeed a bald black man. Damn. If I've ever been identified in a series of emojis, this would be the moment. And especially with the Malokia. Is that Malokia? Yeah. Or is that... Oh no, it's the Magic 8 Ball. Wanker. I love that too though. Alright. Yeah. Instead of cue ball, I am the 8 Ball. I love my team jersey color. Alright. I think this is where parking is. And then I feel like also the worst part is too, after the flight, you kind of sit there and you're just, you get out of the plane and you're like tying down your cheap ass beater of an airplane, and you look at the one next to you and it's this shiny ass business jet, and you're just like, one day that will be me. Not owning it. Just possibly working a job where I get to fly it. I don't know. Because yeah, again, I feel like owning a jet, that's you're getting to levels of edible rich. It's kind of like, all right, yeah, you start to become guillotine fodder. Oh, look at me, I've got a jet. I go so fast. I burn up so much money. I burn up so much dinosaurs too. Ha ha ha. I love my little clapped out planes. I'm sorry. Cool. And also, awesome. So for our next flight tomorrow, we know that they have fuel. So we're going to be able to fuel up tomorrow for our flight to Oklahoma City. because we burned up a good amount of fuel on this flight. Fab was actually here for the last flight. Man's got to see me drift an airplane from like 3,500 feet down all the way to the runway. So yeah, we got fuel last flight, but we burnt up a good amount of it on this flight, and I don't want to fill this plane up now. I just want to go home, bro. So, and yep, there it goes. We're gonna park next to one of these fancy ass twin prop business planes in our clapped out beta of a Cessna. Life imitates art, or does art imitate life? Or maybe they both just need to get their own personality and stop copying each other. Oh, well, it looks like parking is very close. Okay, so it isn't disgustingly far away. Why am I going to the hangars as if I'm one of those people that could afford a hangar? Yeah, right. No, I am a baby student pilot just trying his first solo night cross country. Okay, so I found my person I'm supposed to park at. I found my ground marshal. I think that's my ground marshal. Yep, that's my ground marshal with his glowing lightsabers. Alright, Sith Lord, guide me in. Alright, he's telling me go right. Bring her in, bring it in, bring it in. Yo, mans wants me closer? Bro, this happened last flight too. These people are brave. How close do you want to get to the prop, man? He's like, a little more, okay. A little more. Okay. Oh, he didn't want the smoke. He just dropped the lightsabers. Okay, wait. No. It was just a prank, bro. Alright. And can you believe it? The temperature just dropped to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. When we were flying, we were at like a cool 40-something degrees, and it just dropped. Welcome to New Mexico, everyone. We're not in Arizona anymore. It gets real cold. Yo, homie's like smirking, just like, yeah, I almost took that prop. Yo, I'll do it again too. Alright, so let's shut down the engines. Best way to do it is by slowly letting the mixture out. This is how we make sure that we
Everything's
starve
on
the
board.
engine of fuel. Alright, so we've safely starved the engine of fuel, so that's how we know there's no more in the lines. Open the throttle in and out. Now we can turn off the mags, so magnetos are off. Can turn off the alternator, seeing as we no longer need it. So alternator is off, beacon lights off, landing lights off, taxi off, strobe off, pitot off, avionics master switch off, fuel selector set to center, fuel cutoff valve, fuel valve set to shut off. That's off. We're gonna turn off radio lighting. Set that to 0. Panel lights off. Pedestal lights off. Go above, overhead. Check floodlight. Floodlights operative. There is nothing down here for us to switch off besides our battery. We're gonna turn off the floodlight. Floodlights off. And now floodlights off. We can turn off our battery. That was a successful flight, I'd say. Nobody died. So, tomorrow,